Rob Dawson here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Henson.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jarrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Hello and welcome into Field of 68 After Dark. Thanks for making us a part of your Thursday night. We are on YouTube. We are on X. Of course, later after the show is over in about an hour, we're going to be on Stadium and we're going to be answering all of your questions that you may have about college basketball. Light night in the world of college hoops. Do have to talk about the performance that Iowa State put on earlier tonight. Otherwise, light night, which means we'll get to sort of go around the sport. We'll talk about the Big Ten. We'll talk about Bronny James making his debut in college basketball this weekend. We'll be joined a little bit later by Colorado State stud Isaiah Stevens. They get the win last night over Denver despite a couple of injuries. And so we'll catch up with him about an undefeated season and the run that Colorado State is on. I'm John Martin. I am joined tonight by my guys, Matt McCall, college coaching veteran, college basketball analyst, as well as John Henson, longtime NBA vet, North Carolina Tar Heel. Fellows, appreciate the time. As always, good to be with you. Matt, let's start with you. This is a get back for Iowa State after a blowout last year at the hands of Iowa. They got their get back tonight in a major way, just handled Iowa from the jump. What did you see from Iowa State tonight, and what does a win like this sort of say about what they might be able to do the rest of the way?
Man, that was an offensive clinic, to say the least. I mean, something about those guards from St. Louis, Brad Beal, Jason Tatum, Keyshawn Gilbert, what a night he had. But just the balance for Iowa State, I think, was super impressive. 19 assists, 47% from three. It was just an offensive clinic for Coach Otzelberger's team. But, you know, go on the other side with Iowa, just defensively right now. I mean, gave up 84 to Creighton, 87 to Purdue, 90 tonight. You know, Iowa's got to get that defense figured out. But, I mean, what an unbelievable job by Iowa State. And that was an offensive clinic, to say the least.
Yeah, John, you certainly – I was going to say, John, you have been a part of so many rivalry games, you know, a little bit more high profile than Iowa State, Iowa, the most probably iconic rivalry in all of college basketball. So just for those guys, right, I mean, they had to sit with that all year. So can you just sort of take us through what that's like as a player when you're a part of such a heated rivalry like that and having to sit with it for a year before you can play again?
Yeah, I mean, getting blown out in a rivalry. I still have never forgotten getting blown out by Duke my freshman year when they had Shire and Nolan and Zubek and Lance Thomas. I mean, it was literally one of the worst losses of my life. I can never forget it. But we came back the next year and we beat them by 20. So that was on our minds 100%. When we walked into Duke, we kind of like, we're not losing this game. Right, like that was our energy. So it seems like that's what Iowa State had in mind. Like you said, it was a light night, not for college basketball, but for Iowa State. You know, and on the other end with Iowa, they used to could go blow for blow with you offensively, so they looked a little better. But now it seems like they're not defending and they're not scoring at a high rate. And this is kind of what you get, even just from the jump set. I just didn't feel like Iowa was into it. I don't know if they had a long practice. Maybe it's snowing up there. It's a little chilly. But this game was over quickly, very fast, as you guys both know.
Yeah, John, I want to stay with you real quick, man, because, you know, when you played in college, I want to – and I got to believe that it was very different. Like, I'm just looking at it right now, and Iowa State just lived at the three-point line, 8 of 17, 47%. You know, in terms of the way the game is played today, I mean, is that just going to be, you know, a lot of these games when you get into, you know, January, February, March, whoever's hotter from, you know, from three? Is it really that simple? How much does it change the game just from your perspective?
You know, it leaves a lot of room for these wild upsets, right? Or these, you know, teams that aren't necessarily in the top conferences to be able to compete, when you take that shooting and, into factor. And so, tonight, Iowa State jumped on them early, hit a bunch of threes, and it was over, right? And also on the other hand, if you're not hitting threes, it's going to be a long day for you, especially if you don't defend. So that's just a state of the game. If I could rewind and we were shooting threes all the time, I would have had a lot more fun. So I think it's good for the game and it's good for the sport, just competitive wise, man. I think, as we've seen this year, I don't know, like I feel like every year we say it's crazy in college basketball, but you've seen some interesting results this year, man. Even from teams that are really good, like how FAU comes, had and plays well, then they drop the ball again, right? Like it's an interesting, paradox, the 3-point shot in college basketball right now. So I would want some shooters. That's what I would boil down. You got to have some shooters to be successful, and that's what it's looking like this college basketball season, man.
Matt, it's been a tough short walk for Iowa this year. Sort of every time they've kind of stepped up in competition, whether it was Creighton, Oklahoma, Purdue, and now Iowa State, it just really hasn't ended very well for them. Is this a team that, can put something together, by the time we really get into the heart of Big Ten play? Are there challenges that are going to be hard to fix on the fly? Just what do you sort of assess about this Iowa team?
Well, first of all, they got to fix their defense. I mean, they're not guarding anybody. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, they gave up 84 to Creighton. They gave up 90 tonight. They gave up 87 to Purdue, 79 to Oklahoma. I mean, they have to figure out their defense. I mean, this is too good of a league. And you see teams in the league. I'm going to use Wisconsin as an example. I think Purdue's by far the best team in the league right now. I think Wisconsin and Illinois, you got to put them right there. Indiana, with what they're doing, they've got to be in the category as well. But a team like Wisconsin, and I know they made threes the other night versus Michigan State, but they win games without making threes. They win games without scoring. They win games with their defense. That's the same thing, that at times Indiana has done. So I think for Iowa, for them to compete in the Big Ten, they've got to look at their defense. How can we get more stops? What are we doing right now? Why are we giving up so many points?
Yeah, so if you're Iowa State and you're a fan of that team, you got to feel good about tonight. 90-65, largest win over Iowa in program history, as you see there. All right, again, light night in college basketball in terms of games played. So there was a big headline a little earlier tonight when Andy Enfield mentioned that Bronny James, star freshman, son of LeBron James, is potentially going to be able to play this weekend. You see it there. It'll be determination of how he feels personally and how our doctors and trainers feel, but all indications are he feels great and he looks good. That is great to hear about him. There was real concern over whether he would play at all this college basketball season or maybe ever again. John, going to start with you here. This young man is coming into college basketball with the weight of the world in terms of expectations. What is fair to expect from him? Whether it's on Sunday or just as the season goes on. This is a sport that's dominated, by older players now, and he's going to be a freshman. What's a fair and reasonable expectation for him as he steps into action?
It's going to take some time for him to probably get back into rhythm, but the best thing about him which is why I think he'll actually come along a lot faster, is he makes his teammates better. I just love players like that. So guys that can make their teammates better, I love playing with. I love watching. His teammates probably love him. So I think he's going to fit seamlessly right into that lineup of those dynamic guards, because it's not a lot of pressure to score the ball. So he's probably going to come in and steady the troops and distribute the ball, make some plays. I love that for them. He's going to make them better, especially coming off the bench if that's what they're going to do with him. Most likely, he will make them a better team. And like I said, he makes everyone better. Man, I love watching him play. I love his game.
Matt, as a coach, right? I mean, you understand everything that's going to come with Bronny. Now, I mean, I think USC being in, Southern California.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So how do you coach that, knowing that it is going to be a transition when you're so young, and also you have to, factor in the health things as well. How do you coach that? Oh, by the way, like LeBron's up the street. So how do you handle that, as a coach with Bronny?
Yeah. Well, a couple things. One, LeBron, when you look at, let's just go back to his career, cover of Sports Illustrated magazine, expectations from the year when he was 14 years old about being one of the greatest. And LeBron has lived up to those expectations. And this is not a conversation of, LeBron or MJ, LeBron or Kobe. This is about expectations. And LeBron has lived up to those expectations. He's never been in trouble. He's won championships. He's won MVPs. So when you look at Bronny, his dad's going to be able to help him with those expectations. Andy Enfield, it's a challenging place to be in. He's such a good player. He obviously went through the health issue, and you pray that Bronny's okay. Seems like if the family feels good about him playing, then he'll be out there and he'll be playing. If the doctors feel good and all that, and that's all you want to see. But it's a challenge just in terms of Andy Enfield too, because he's got a good team, and bringing Bronny on, kind of, inching him into the lineup, however that looks, however that works. But you also know if he's not out there and he's not out there for 20, 30 minutes a game, and maybe you're not having success, everyone's going to be like, what's going on? Why is Bronny not in the game? Because of the expectations that are on him. But because of what LeBron dealt with, because of his family and all those things, I think everyone being on the same page is really going to help Bronny. But I think it's a challenge. I think it's a challenge for Coach Enfield, especially if they're not – now if they're winning and he's playing 10 to 15 minutes, whatever it is, then that's a different story. But if for some reason they're not having success, that's going to be a challenge to deal with all of that. And that's, it's something that as a coach, he's going to have to manage. And Coach Enfield has had great success. He's had great success out there, but it's something that he's going to have to deal with.
John, what about like as a teammate, because he's coming in and, Boogie's been there for, years. I mean, you're talking about a group that's got real experience. So just in terms of his teammates, welcoming him in and sort of getting him acclimated, like what does that look like sort of, from a player's perspective?
It'll be interesting to see how he's integrated in and what, how he meshes with his teammates. But I think his teammates probably love him, man. Like I said, the style of his game, it's hard not to like him as a teammate. He's a pass-first guy. He can shoot the three. He's a team-first guy. So I think he's going to mesh well, and Coach Enfield definitely has some things to tweak out. And yes, this microscope is going to be on USC and what Bronny does and how much he plays. But you also have the number one pick in the draft in the backcourt. And, you got LeBron's son in the backcourt along with a pretty decent team. So I think he's excited, man. I think he's happy. He's got a guard back that can lead them. And I think his teammates are going to love playing with him. Like I said, I've watched a few games of his fully through. And, he's a baller. He's a hooper. So I think he'll be good.
Matt, I don't know how much of Bronny you've seen, Matt, but in terms of, again, I really feel like in this age of college basketball, it's just best by default to keep expectations really low because it is just an older sport by virtue of, COVID years and instant transfers and all those things.
No
but
question.
From what you've seen of him, what do you think he'll be able to bring, if he's going to get these major minutes early on, which I assume he will if he's playing?
Well, I agree with John just in terms of he's unselfish. He's fun to watch. His teammates obviously are going to enjoy playing with him because he's not this guy that's just going to go out there and try to get a bucket. He's extremely athletic. He's going to be able to defend and switch and guard multiple positions. So from what I've seen, he's going to have an impact. But I think managing those expectations for him, especially because he's missed a lot of time, even though that he's able to play and healthy to play and that's unbelievable. He's also missed a lot of time. And I think you've got to take that into factor too. He's missed practice time, he's missed games, and he's still a freshman. And John, you just mentioned it, like old guys out there, you got to manage those expectations for a freshman in college who's playing against guys in college that have been there for 4 or 5 years with all the COVID years and everything. So I think managing those expectations is big for Bronny. I think it's big for Bronny. Now, I know his dad wants to play with him in the NBA, but I think you got to manage those expectations for him, especially with all the time that he's missed.
Yeah, I think there's no question about it. But it will be a great sight to see him, on the floor. No question about it, given everything that he has been through the last few months. Hey, Colorado State hasn't lost a game in college basketball. They are number 13 in the country. We're going to chat with Colorado State star Isaiah Stevens on the other side. Don't miss it. You're watching the Field of 68 After Dark.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
All right, and welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. And as promised, he is leading the undefeated Colorado State Rams in scoring. He's Isaiah Stevens. He joins us now. Isaiah, appreciate you being here, man. Before we get to your season, of course, in which you're undefeated, we hear the grapevine that your talk on the court is also undefeated. Is that true?
It depends on who told you that story. Nah, man, I appreciate you guys having me. I'm definitely excited to get into it today, man.
So just sort of tell us, coming into this season, did you get the sense that, with everybody back and coach and, the season ahead, that did you feel like this could be something special like this? And if you did, what was it about this team that sort of gave you that indication?
Yeah, man, I definitely felt like a big reason for me coming back was just the confidence I had in our coaching staff and the players that we were not only returning back to the program, but also that we were able to get in the portal. And obviously a few conversations later, I was all the way in, and I felt like I would be able to come back here and help be a part of something special.
Isaiah, just so you know, man, it's not the norm. Stay at a school for 5 years, and you're in your 5th year. What is it about Coach Medved? And I have great respect for him. I was in the league with him when he was at Furman and I was at Chattanooga. I know how good of a coach he is. But what was it, just in terms of you could have gone places, you could have gone in there. Why did you stay at Colorado State? Why did you stay to play for Coach? Because that's not the norm. And guys are trying to leave every year. It doesn't matter if they're scoring, if they're not scoring, if they're putting up numbers. If they're not putting up numbers, they just leave just to leave. And you've stayed, man. And I have great respect for that. Why was it?
Yeah, man. And I have a lot of friends that have transferred, a lot of peers, teammates that I respect their decisions. I just feel like for me, man, it was the best decision for me. I get the ball a ton. I get to play with extreme confidence and freedom. Coach Medved, I think, genuinely cares about me as a person. We've gotten to really connect on a personal level. All the way from my recruitment back in high school, all the way up until now. That's somebody I can always just lean on and trust and be open with regardless of the situation. And sometimes it's hard to find those things in a year's time. I felt like I was able to build that up over my time here at CSU, and I just take great pride in that. And so that's ultimately why I decided to stay. I just feel like the grass isn't always greener. And for somebody like me, my play style, my just overall understanding of the game, I feel like we really see eye to eye in a lot of that. So it was easy for me.
Cool. Isaiah, question. So being a under the radar team per se nationally, right? Before the season, what were you guys' goals as a team, right? Like, what did you guys tell each other, knowing how good you guys could be? What was the first goal you guys had as far as, for this season?
Oh, man. We definitely had a few meetings where we sat down as a team and wrote out our goals. And we were told not to be reluctant in any way, shape, or form about what we wanted to pursue. It was one of those shoot for the stars, land amongst the clouds kind of thing. And if you feel like you can go win a national championship, write it down. And there's some things on there that I'll definitely keep in-house just for the sake of the team. But, yeah, man, we're definitely striving for everything that you can get in the game of college basketball. So I'm excited to see where this continues to go. But this is a very driven group, an older group that's played a lot of college basketball, man. And at this stage, a lot of us, man, we just want to win. So it's made it easy right now in the transition.
Isaiah, you're from Allen, Texas. What's the biggest difference between Fort Collins and Allen, Texas?
Man, the weather for one. Jeez, man, I still don't know if I get used to the cold weather, the ice, or the snow at all right now. And I was out there, almost slipped on a piece of ice going to practice today, man. It was crazy. But
don't do that, man.
Yeah, I probably say the weather.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so I started walking a whole lot slower after that. But I'll probably say that the pace of life honestly just feels a lot slower up here. You'll see people out and about all the time, just kind of just hanging out outside, whether it's going up to the mountains, I don't know, just hanging out in Old Town, which is like our downtown section of the city, just sightseeing, all different kinds of things. Whereas in Texas, it just feels like everybody's on the go, got places to be, things to do. You could be here, there, everywhere. So I'll probably say those are the biggest differences.
Man, I'm just curious, as somebody that's, you've been building, you've been a part of it, man, for your career, you've been building there at Colorado State. This is a program that has not gotten to the Sweet 16 since 1969. Obviously got to the tournament, in 2022, but hasn't had that second weekend appearance, since 1969. So for you in an age of college basketball where, you can pick up, you can drop off, you can how much sort of satisfaction does it give to you potentially being on the precipice of a super successful season, maybe the most successful season ever there, having been a part of it as long as you've been a part of it?
Yeah, man, that's definitely in the works, definitely in the cards for us as a program. Not only do we want to make it to the NCAA tournament, but guys make their names by winning in it, right? And so that's probably the biggest thing for us is how can we advance in the tournament? And we still got a long way to go. So I don't even want to start looking too far ahead as far as what that looks like. Yep. But it's definitely a part of our goals. And we know it's tough. A few years ago, we ran up against Michigan in the first round, and that definitely gave us a sour taste in our mouths for even still to this day. So a lot of respect for those teams that are able to get in that tournament and win and continue to advance, because it's definitely not easy.
No question. Well, man, you're on the right track with what you guys are doing, obviously, next game against St. Mary's. So continued success, Isaiah, man. We appreciate the time as always, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you having me, man. Y'all have a good one.
Right.
Yes, sir. He is Isaiah Stevens, leading scorer for the Colorado State Rams. Matt, just real quick on them. They had some injury issues earlier in the week, and they had to take on a very plucky Denver team. They did get the job done, but just from what you've seen of Colorado State, do they have the ingredients to be one of these teams sort of outside the power structure that you think we could look up in March and they're there, in the second weekend?
I mean, 1,000%, just based on that interview right there. I mean, the character of him, the things that he's saying, the fact that he's in his 5th year and he stayed. And you could tell he doesn't like the weather too much, right? He made the comment about it, and he stayed. That's how you win. That's culture, right? I mean, we throw the term out, culture. Coaches throw the term out all the time. Nico Medved has it at Colorado State, and that's why he stayed there, and that's why that team has a chance to win and win big. Same thing when you look at FAU, all those guys coming back, right? Like, yes, they've dropped some games here this season, but there's a reason that they made a run to the Final Four last year, because they have that level of culture where they can get guys that are trying to be plucked from high major schools, but they end up staying. Mm-hmm. I was super impressed with that interview, man. What a player, just a high character human being. Yes, so forget what they're running, forget what they're what they're doing on defense. when you got guys like him in your program, you got a chance to win. You got a chance to win big.
Hey, John, let me ask you this real quick, man, because, obviously Colorado State is like the opposite of a blue blood. So I don't know if you ever in your career met one of those type of teams in the NCAA tournament, but like if I was in your shoes as a Tar Heel, that's kind of like the last team I'd want to see, because like they're like they know that nobody wants them here. They know they quote unquote don't belong, and so they're going to come in that game just tough as hell. Like, did you ever play a team like that in the tournament?
We did. We came against Ohio back in the day with the Bobcats. We came against them in the Sweet 16, and I swear that was we lost to Kansas because we lost to Kansas in the Elite Eight because we just didn't have enough. Our starting point guard was done. We were starting a freshman. They just beat us. We didn't have enough. But that Ohio game, it looked like we were in control, but we were on our heels, man, the whole game. And they were upset minded. I think they were an 11 seed. We were the number 1 overall seed. I forget the point guard's name, DJ something, man. He was a killer, man. So I remember those teams like that. And these are teams you don't want to, like in a Sweet 16 with nothing to lose.
Right.
Those are the tougher games for those higher seeded teams. And I've been in a couple of those games, and it's been sketchy. I've never been upset per se, but those are the games that you remember for the rest of your life, man. For real, man. Like that was a tough game. And you don't want to get upset on 11 seed, you know what I mean? Especially going to play Kansas next, you look ahead a little bit. So they're going to be right there at the end. If they can stay, health is going to be a problem. I think St. Mary's is going to be a tough game for them because St. Mary's isn't playing as well as we thought either. So that's going to St. Mary's is probably looking at that as like a must win, right?
Absolutely
right. It's
Absolutely
going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game.
Hey, real quick before we get to break here, while we're on the topic of Colorado State, are they the team sort of outside the power structure, Matt, that you think is built, to go the furthest? Is there another team? And obviously we're not going to count FAU because we know FAU is already on that list. But outside of the obvious, Colorado State, who else makes that cut for you?
I mean, you got to put James Madison in there. You have to. Undefeated, go in there, beat Michigan State the first game of the season. We'll get into Michigan State later and where are they and their issues and everything like that. But you got to put James Madison in that same category. Mark Byington, the job that he's doing there this season, I think them, Colorado State, those are the two for me at the top of the list.
John, is there another answer there for you, or is it sort of those two and maybe the field?
I'm going with the Miami nightclub in the desert. I'm going with Grand Canyon. They beat a top 25 San Diego State team.
Too, John.
They have 5 power conference transfers. There's 71 on KenPom.
Okay.
If you beat Grand Canyon right now, it's a quad 1 win. Like, what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's crazy saying that, right? So, I love the home court advantage, the camping out, the atmosphere. They're above teams like Florida State, Missouri, Georgia, Ole Miss, Syracuse at 7-1. I love Grand Canyon. I actually want to go to a game and just to see the environment because I heard it's absolutely nuts there. So that's what I'm rocking with.
I had them out in Arizona. I had them out in Arizona, and I did their game. And I think San Francisco is another really, really good team. And South Carolina won the event out there. But the environment that Grand Canyon brought to the Desert Duel or to the Arizona tip-off at Desert Diamond Arena out in Arizona was unbelievable. The story of time for Grant Foster, that whole deal. I mean, the fact that he's doing what he's doing, that's one of the greatest stories in college basketball, to see him out there and playing at the level that he is. So I'm with Henson on that. I think they're another really good team. Bryce Drew, great coach, went through a lot, goes to Vanderbilt, gets let go, goes out there. He's gone to 3 out of 4 NCAA tournaments the last 4 years, I think is what it is. And his team is on the way to go there too. So Henson, that's a great call, man. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it was a weird week for, college sports because there was the proposal of this, new subdivision, and you look around college basketball right now, it's, FAU, James Madison, Colorado State, Grand Canyon, Memphis. These are all sort of schools that exist outside the power structure that are certainly in the conversation to win in March. And my hope is just that, if we do go to this new phase of college athletics, those schools still have a seat at the table. Hey, Purdue's the favorite, according to BetMGM in the Big Ten. Should they be? We'll get to it when we get back. You're watching Field of 68 After Dark.
I know it's early, but it's never too early to fire off a hot take. And this is where I have to mention Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. That is VLTED, Vaulted. The thing you're going to like about it, it's got a challenge feature so you can prove that you are smarter than your friends. Download the app, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools today. Here is my challenge, Mac. Here is my prediction. Clemson's going to win the ACC this year. Clemson's the best team in the ACC, and they are going to take home an ACC regular season title when things are all said and done. Is that crazy?
No, that's not crazy at all. Not one bit. In fact, I don't want to say they're the favorite, but I think if you were a betting man, based on who they've played and how they've played, I don't think it's crazy. When those students get back from Christmas break and the ACC starts really getting rolling, it's going to be hard to win at Clemson. And those guys are built to win on the road. I love Brad's teams in terms of their toughness in the half court defensively. I don't think it's crazy at all.
I think Clemson's a quality team.
Challenge accepted.
All right, welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. I'm your host, John Martin, joined by my guys, Matt McCall and John Henson. Guys, let's talk a little Big Ten. I checked the odds over at BetMGM earlier tonight, and it's kind of a landslide. I mean, to be this early in the season, Purdue is sitting there at plus 125. Okay, they're almost minus to win the Big Ten. I think the next closest is Illinois, and they may be 7-1. So obviously, odds here, big gap between Purdue and the rest of the field in the Big Ten. Matt, should the field be that, should the gap be that wide? Should Purdue be the prohibitive favorite based on what we've seen so far this year?
First of all, I just want to know if Henson's going to get the headpiece that Hansborough has on, with the whole deal with the headphones and the like Henson is. Can you talk to your boy about that? I mean, the only other person that I've ever seen wear that is Mike Krzyzewski, and I know you guys don't like Duke guys. And Krzyzewski, when he's doing these things, he's got that. So, can you talk to your boy about that?
You've got to tell him that Krzyzewski does it, and he'll probably stop. That's probably a trigger word for him. So if you say Coach K does it, he won't do it anymore.
Okay, I mean that's a heck of a deal right there. The guy could fly an airplane wearing that thing.
That's what it is. That's the original design.
I think that's what he's doing. I don't know why we're not talking about Wisconsin enough. I don't know why we're not talking about them. Okay. They've won 6 games in a row. They lost to Tennessee, they lost to Providence, and their defense has been absolutely outstanding. Holding teams in the 50s. They put a defensive clinic versus Virginia to hold them in the 40s. Everyone was picked Michigan State for them to lose that game, and they just go in there and they beat them and put on almost an offensive clinic. Chucky Hepburn, Klesmet is playing extremely well. I think Purdue is the clear-on favorite in the Big Ten. I think Purdue and Arizona are the 2 best teams in the country. I really believe that. I think you put UConn in that category. I think they're up there too. Nobody talks about Houston at all, but Wisconsin needs to be talked about too, especially losing those 2 games early in the season to see what they're doing now and what they're doing on the defensive end of the floor to hold teams in the 50s in this 6-game winning streak is extremely impressive. You got to talk about them a little bit more, and I think you need to put Illinois, especially what they did against FAU, Terrence Shannon, one of the best guards in the Big Ten. You got to put them in that same category.
I know this is not a betting show, but my man Henson, I do know off the air, is an investor. He's an investor.
Yeah.
And so when I want to make sure I get these correct, Purdue is plus 125 is all GM. Michigan State is 6-1, Wisconsin 7-1, Illinois 8-1, and then you start getting into Ohio State, Maryland, Northwestern Indiana. Is there any value? Like, there's no value at plus 125 with Purdue. So let's take them out of the equation. Is there any value on Michigan State, Wisconsin, Illinois, based on the numbers that you have at BetMGM?
So Coach led me into my Wisconsin segue. I was going to say the value is probably going to be on Wisconsin. And if Illinois is 8-1, I think the value is on them. I mean, you got to give those two sprinkles because, it's from a value perspective, right? I do think Purdue is probably going to end up winning this thing, but Wisconsin is only going to get smaller. Wisconsin is really good. They'll be right there at the end. It could be 1 or 2 games, right? Purdue has some type of injury, some type of slump. They could be right there to take the crown. So I like the Wisconsin and Illinois from a value perspective, and they're both playing well. I'm scared to trust Illinois because we trust them, I feel like, every year, and then they let us down. So maybe this is the year that they finally live up to the hype, per se, and they get it together, which they do look good right now. But we've seen this before, right? In the Garden last year, we thought they were going to – I mean, we were calling for them potential national championship contenders, right? So I need to see a little more from them, but I love Wisconsin, what they're doing. Under the radar, kind of playing well. We haven't talked about them for the last few years. I think they're back in a big way, and we'll be talking about them a lot as the year goes on.
Matt, what about Ohio State? Because they're sitting here at 8-1. They've beaten Alabama. They did beat Minnesota. I'm not sure what exactly that beat Alabama. And they're 11-1. But I mean, is this a team that could challenge? What do you make of Ohio State?
Well, I think I look at Ohio State kind of in the same category as Indiana. They beat Alabama. That's a good win. I think Ohio State's a good team. But, like, where do they end up at the end of the year? Are they still getting better? Are they still improving? Have they really beaten anybody? And I think, you saw them early in the season. They lose to Texas A&M. But that Alabama win was a good win. I think they're still growing and developing as a team. I kind of got them and Indiana in the same category. I think the win the other night on Tuesday night Indiana had against Michigan on the road was a really, really good win, and they won that game without Indiana. But I just want to see more. I want to see more from Ohio State. I want to see more from Indiana. Like, how good are they really? Have they played against top-level competition? I thought Texas A&M is a really, really good team.
Yep.
That game early in the season, you kind of saw some flaws from Ohio State. So I just want to see more out of them, I think. And the same thing with Indiana. I want to see more. They played against UConn, didn't play great against them. Their front court has been a lot better. Their front court the other night in that Michigan game was absolutely outstanding. But how good are they really? I think for me right now, it's Purdue, it's Wisconsin, and it's Illinois. And then who else is going to add – who else is going to rise to that crop? Northwestern obviously beating Purdue at home. Boo Buie is one of the best guards in the league, maybe even in the country. But those three are at the top of the league right now, and who else is going to join that crop?
Let's kind of flip this. Let's sort of get to the teams that are not in the discussion to win the Big Ten. Specifically, want to talk about Michigan because a month ago, you would have thought whether it was this network, whether it was on social media, you'd have thought Michigan was plus 125 to win the Big Ten. And they have now lost 5 of their last 6. Juwan Howard's still not coaching. John, is this thing just totally off the rails at this point?
Yeah. Don't know if it's off the rails, but if you look what they have coming up at Iowa's going to be juiced up for that. Florida, they could keep losing. I mean, they're going to probably beat Eastern Michigan, but they got to turn it around fast. I don't know if it's coach not being back. Maybe it's a different style, but early on, man, we thought they looked good. Their front court looked really good. They played really well, but I'm worried about them. I'm worried about them. I don't feel like they have an identity. The guard play is really good, but what else are they? What do they do? Do they defend? Do they run? Do they shoot the three? They're just kind of a team with no identity, and that's just a red flag, especially if you want to be a really good team in college basketball, in my opinion.
Matt, how do you get this thing centered? Because I mean, they're, in fairness to Michigan, they did win at St. John's, in convincing fashion. And now that was a long time ago, but you could see sort of glimpses here and there about, this team does have talent. But how do you sort of get this thing back centered, with Juwan not there, with the skid here? What can you do? What's in your power as a coach when you see it going this south?
Well, I think you got to talk about a couple things. One, I think you got to talk about the fact that, outside of the game the other night, they've been in really close games, right? I mean, Oregon makes an absolute bomb to beat them in overtime. They have to travel back on Sunday back to Michigan and play that game at home. And you wonder, did that have any effect and any impact going into that game the other night versus Indiana? Those their 4 losses, 3 out of the 4 losses were by 2 possessions or less. And it's like, did that Oregon game take something out of them where you started to not believe, and you come home and Dougie McDaniel, he just didn't look like himself, right? He missed some big free throws down the stretch. He didn't have his best game. So you got to, did the travel, did something like that have an impact on this? They've dealt with a lot. Their head coach has been out. Now he's back. He's on the bench. Coach Martelli's still coaching the team. I think they're still a really good team. I think Olivia Kamwa made some huge plays down the stretch of that game and proved that he's one of the better front court players in the Big Ten. They just got to find their rhythm. And they've lost some close games. So as a coach, hey, guys, we're right there. We've lost 5 or whatever it may be, but we're right there. They should have beaten Oregon. Bomb. The shot that was made from basically half court. I mean, that was a bomb. They're 1 possession away from beating Oregon. Like I said, 3 out of 4 of those losses that they had going into that game were by 2 possessions or less. So we're right there. We got to continue. They got to defend. That's the biggest thing. Like, we talk about Iowa having to defend. Michigan's got to find some way to get some stops because they can score. They're a high-powered offensive team. Dougie McDaniel's a great player. We he's unbelievable. Like, how are we going to get stops? We got to hang our hat on our defense, and they're not doing that. I mean, they're giving up, 80 plus. So, guys, we got to get better on the defensive end of the floor. But offensively, we're okay, and we've been right there. So we're going to get this thing flipped around and turn in the right direction.
John, is that a players thing? Obviously the coaches are going to say, their piece, and they're going to have sort of their own solutions. But when you're dealing with a streak that's going so left like that, is it really just going to come down to the players sort of, getting it done themselves? I don't know if you ever had a streak in your career where you lost 5 or 6, but Matt, just try to pretend you did. Is this going to be a players-driven type of deal, getting themselves out of it?
Coach brought up a good point, as far as like them kind of, losing that tough game and maybe they kind of let go of the rope a little bit. Especially, you don't know how much Coach Howard is around. You don't know if he's involved in the day-to-day. And from a player perspective, Coach knows if Coach is not around, I'm keeping honest, there's a little less accountability. It just is what it is, right? From the day-to-day, the accountability aspect. So that's on the team to handle that and when he gets back. But at the end of the day, these are college kids. This is not NBA professionals, right? And they came there for him, most likely, to be coached by him. And probably from a perspective of accountability, he holds the highest cards, right? So that's a good point by Coach. Maybe they let go of the rope a little bit. They need to grab back on. They need to defend. The season's not at a loss. They've got some games coming up, winnable games that they should be able to compete in. They need to defend, steal a few games, and see where the chips fall until their coach gets healthy, and go from there.
Yeah, I went to public school in Memphis, but when the teacher was gone, bro, and it was the substitute. Oh man,
Listen,
it was
man,
like
I'm just saying the 3-pointer. You're not looking over the shoulder at Coach Howard. You're looking over the shoulder at the assistant who may be your boy, right? Like sometimes you're closer to the assistants than the head coach. You're like, let me just take this tray ball real quick, man. He recruited me. He's not gonna get mad. So
listen, I can tell you, Phil Martelli is not a guy that's just gonna let you come down and shoot the ball. I can tell you right now.
Right. That's true.
Now.
He's not a substitute teacher. You're just going to be. He's not taking any shit. That is
Man,
that is a
listen,
good
Phil,
point.
Phil could be sitting back like this. Look, man, I came here to kind of just hang out, help my boy coach. Now they threw me the reins.
right.
Like, this is not what I signed up for.
Hey, when we get back, we're going to do the panic meter. How panicked are we about a couple of teams? Michigan State, Villanova, etc. When we get back, Field of 68 After Dark. Back after this.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
Welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. Appreciate you spending your Thursday evening with us. Reminder, after the show is over in about 15 minutes or so, we're going to head over to Stadium and we're going to get into all your questions about college basketball. He's got, what is that, Miomi? What's the vino of choice over there, Henson?
It's the Bell Glass. Miomi's pretty good, man. Hey, I'm impressed by that. Miomi will get you right.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, bro. I mean, I'm top class over here. So we will get into all of your questions on last call after the show is over. So make sure if you haven't gotten those in, you have a question, get those in. It is time for Matt McCall's favorite segment of the day, Panic Meter. Matt, can I just put you down for one on all of these, or what? Should I just put you down for one?
All right, where are we going? Where are we going?
Let's get it cracking with Michigan State. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being Matt, it is a fly around your ear, and 5, we may need to make some staff changes. How panicked are we about Michigan State?
First of all, we can't make staff changes, okay? Tom Izzo has been to 25 straight NCAA tournaments. 25. 25 straight NCAA tournaments. So we're not making staff changes until he wants to make a staff change. I am a little bit concerned. They just look a little bit out of sorts. They're not in rhythm offensively. Tyson Walker's having to do too much. AJ Hoggard is not who he was last year, and that's what they need. Coach Izzo has talked about shrinking the bench, not playing the freshmen. I think there's a reason to be concerned for Michigan State, but we're also talking about a coach going to 25 straight NCAA tournaments. So I don't think we need to make a staff change at Michigan State. I think Coach Izzo will get it figured out, but they just seem out of sorts. They're not in rhythm offensively, and you can see it.
Can we put you down for a 3,
for you, John? Is that
can we? I just want to assign a number to it. Can we put you down for a 3
out of 5?
Yes.
I'll go 3.
All right, 3. Henson, where are you at?
We got him. I'll stick with a 3. Maybe, obviously Michigan State coach is a victim of his own success. So 25 straight years of having a tournament. Michigan State's always in the conversation, Big Ten and further. So we'll go a solid 3, but God forbid, in the last quarter, century, he has a bad year, right? So I think they've got to figure it out. He's figured it out before. They do have to figure out with the guys that they have coming back aren't performing like they were last year. Don't know if it's just that was peak Michigan State we saw last year from this team, what they could possibly do. But yeah, they're approaching shambles right now, and Izzo will turn it around. If not this year, next year, have no doubt in my mind. But like Coach said, 25 straight years, give him a break, man. He might be golfing early this year, for the first time ever.
John, I know your head's down, and you think I'm going to go right back to the coach speak. I do think they got to get healthy too.
Yeah,
I do. I just there's something they just look off. Maybe it's expectations. Yeah. Maybe they were ranked too high to start the season. Think about that. Like, I mean, sometimes that maybe they're not as good as everyone thought they were going to be. But I think they got to get healthy too. They've had like the flu bug or whatever run through their team. Everybody seems to have missed time. So let's see where they are in 2 weeks. I mean, that Nebraska game coming up, it's a must win. I don't ever think there's must wins. That's a big game for Michigan State. That's a really big game.
Yeah, they better win it. Yeah.
A
McCall 3 is like a regular 4, just so we're clear, on a panic meter.
And if you look at their roster too, they got 9 guys played over 15 minutes. So I've played before. There's got to be some kind of tension as far as minutes as well. It's got to be. There's no way to keep 9 guys happy. I don't care who you are, what 100%. Team, what levels. So,
but I think that too, John. I think that's why he came out and said what he did before the game the other night against Wisconsin. Hey, these freshmen aren't ready to play. They're not ready to play. And I feel like he was trying to eliminate the distraction of at least if you're going into the game and you're not going to play, maybe we don't have to deal with that. And I think that's why he came out and said what he said.
Chestnut checkers.
All right, moving on here. A couple other teams here. Villanova can't seem to beat anybody inside state lines against everybody else. If it's inside Pennsylvania, though, they're going to get their ass kicked. So with that being said, Matt, 1 to 5, how panicked should we be about the Wildcats?
My man Chris Mack said it best the other night about Villanova. They're kind of Jekyll and Hyde. They go down to the Bahamas, they play well, they win the event, they come back, they struggle in Philadelphia. And they had chances to beat Kansas State on the road the other night, and they just didn't get it done. I think Kyle Neptune is in a really difficult spot. He's only in his 3rd year as a head coach. I think you got to give young coaches time to develop. So in terms of the panic meter, without too much coach speak, I'm going to go with the 3.
Okay, 2 straight 3s from McCall. I mean, I got to tell you, those were huge odds that came in on that one. So congrats to anybody that had 2 straight 3s. John, how about you?
I'm gonna go. I want to say 4, but I don't want to go too crazy because here's the thing. I feel like I don't know what is got amiss in what Villanova is as a program, but I mean, we are talking about the, if not premier program of the last decade, right? 2 championships. They've got guys, all-stars, pros, guys making hundreds of millions of dollars, guys averaging 30, 25 points a game. Like, I think Villanova needs to kind of like sit back and say, hold on, like, we're playing for what's on our chest. There's some of those games they shouldn't have lost. I mean, I think it's just a lack of focus and maybe a little bit of lack of pride. Like, and I think that's more so room to panic than anything, man. Like, you guys are Villanova, man. Like these schools in Philly that kids are from Philly, like didn't get recruited. I mean, they're going to have a chip on their shoulder and they're going to play well against you guys. And so I don't know what's going on over there, man, but they've kind of got to go back and, especially when I was in North Carolina and we'd have a stretch where we didn't look like ourselves. We were playing selfish or we weren't playing our brand of basketball. We would have the older players call us like, yo, we don't care what you got going on. Do you know what it means to put on that jersey? And I think that's maybe the issue with Villanova from what I see, like Coach Jekyll and Hyde, like, you go to Bahamas and you beat these teams, you play well, you look really good some nights, and then you lose to a Big 5 school, right? Like, what's going on there? You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
Yeah, confusing. All right, last one before we get to our toast of the night. We saved the Whopper for last. Duke, preseason top 2 team in the country, consensus, has now lost – what are we up to now? We lost to Arizona. we lost to Arkansas, and we lost to Georgia Tech. So 3 L's. It's amazing this team, still in the top 25. Panic meter, 1 to 5. Oh, you want to start with John? Perfect. Yeah. Completely neutral observer, right? Nobody better to weigh in here as someone that has no history whatsoever. 1 to 5.
Don't mind the background. I'm going I'm gonna go 4.4. 4.4.
4.4 decimals. Okay.
I'm pressing it. Look, man. I think it's more of a lineup thing. I was actually reading a couple things about what they're going through as far as their lineup. Like Mark Mitchell's not shooting the ball well, which kind of messes up their spacing. But they returned 4 starters. What team has that kind of continuity and playing well? And Shire's starting to play the kid TJ Powers, who's actually looks good when he's out there, but I don't think he's the answer. Proctor is hurt. We forgot Proctor's hurt, guys. Like, this is what their lead guard. It's time to panic over there right now, due to the expectations, not necessarily the situation.
Matt, do you concur? Do you concur with, again, a completely neutral, unbiased observer who has no skin in this game, that it is time to panic about Duke?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, okay? John Shire is sliding over from the seat that he's sliding over into, taking over for one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. It's not an easy thing to do. And he's trying to figure out who he is as a leader. You could say, Duke, this is how we do things. This is how we've always done things at Duke. No one has ever coached that team and that program outside of Coach K in a million years. And John Shire's trying to figure it out. You got to give him some time. So I'm not on the panic meter for Duke. I think they have a young head coach that's taking over a very challenging situation. Yes, it's Duke. They're going to get really good players. But he's also never called a ball play like Coach K has, who did it for a million years and won 1,000 championships. So I'm not a panic meter, because I think Coach Shire, you got to give him time to try to figure it out.
All right. Well, there you have it.
I definitely got to give him time. I'm definitely exaggerating just a tad. I'm a Tar Heel guy, but we were singing his praises. Number 1 recruiting class the last 3 years. Duke is back. So now it's time to take some of that on the other end, right? John, this is probably his first rough patch. Well, last year there was a rough patch early on. They figured it out. So, yeah, it's part of the game. Coach will have to definitely figure it out. But you know what? We were crowning him the guy, right, a month and a half ago. So, that's just how it goes.
Yep. All right. We don't have time for a 3-way toast of the night, so you guys are just going to have to accept this one as the show's toast of the night. To Bronny James for coming back on Sunday, and his dad for getting to the finals of the in-season tournament in Vegas with a blowout win over the Pelicans. There you go. It's a good night for the James family. Join us over at Stadium, where we're going to be answering all your questions about college basketball last call. For Matt McCall, for John Henson, I'm John Martin. Thanks for watching.